Hey there, this is Steven, and I wanted to record this video walking through my exploration of the new Superlist web application. I am particularly interested in getting a better sense of the kinds of UI and UX details that are present. Then I want to talk a little bit about why and how I plan on cloning the core basic functionality that I see in this web application in a Rails application. And I'm hoping to do that with a series of live streams. But I thought I would just start off with this recorded video as I explore the application. So this is the landing page for the application. They call it the inbox. And immediately when I came to this page, I was struck by a few things. Obviously, first of all, the use of the image for this persistent right-hand pane is striking, calming, interesting. It immediately suggests that this is going to be a three-column application, and this right pane will have some functional usage. And I really like how when it isn't being functionally used, they still retain that space and retain the visual sort of flow of the overall page by just sticking some pretty generic image there. As I just mouse around, I notice a number of hover effects. I'm going to dig into those more clearly. But here I see immediately that this list of tasks with the arrow coming up here, open task details, is likely to be how we activate this right-hand pane. And in fact, that's true. There was that view transition there. That's quite nice. This is one of the new features of Turbo and Turbo Rails that I want to explore. It's part of the reason why I want to build this application, to get adept with these new tools that I haven't used before. So this kind of animation where this right-hand pane grows, the image fades in and fades out. That's something I'd love to recreate the core of that. Let's see what else we have here. So we have this navigation left sidebar. We've got the 4 permanent views here. A nice currently selected UI element here. The hover effect, it has a different background and doesn't have the border, so you can clearly tell the difference between the one that you are hovering over and the one that is active, which is a nice detail. They keep this sort of full bleed hover effect for all of the items. Very nice. We have a collapsible element here for some lists. We see that all of these interactive bits are hidden and sort of reveal themselves on hover anywhere inside of this sidebar. Then there are some additional elements that appear when you hover inside of these sections. Got these little popover titles. That's nice. That's something I want to explore using the new popover API that has landed in all Greenfield browsers, to try to recreate this. I had done some initial research on that API, and at present, the way that those popovers are working, you can't declaratively position them relative to their container. They're going to be positioned relative to the viewport. that's something that will be possible when the anchor specification lands, but that is still a work in progress. But there are polyfills and workarounds, and that is something that I want to explore, sort of using the popover HTML API and then enhancing it to allow for A, like showing things on hover, and B, positioning the popovers relative to their containers. I think that could be both fun and educational. Got these collapsibles, buttons. Yeah, this is a link. These are all links. We see here more view transitions. Something I definitely want to experiment with. I think that the new morphing and view transitions features that were just released as a part of Turbo 8 are really valuable and important tools, and I want to make sure that I am adept with them. But yeah, that's quite nice. Focusing in here. Okay, so we've got that seems like functionality I'm not particularly interested in reproducing, attaching or detaching the sidebar. We've got an account popover menu. Okay. This looks to be a kind of grouping / sorting widget. Not sure why they have a filter icon here, but another just popover. Okay, understandable. This notice banner with a link and a button. We've got our form here to add a new task. Let's go back to none. Let's go back to our default state. Then we've got our list of tasks. You can check them. They have a title, inline editing of the title. You have to make sure you're clicking in the right place here. They belong to a list. They can have a label. They can have a due date. They can have an assignee. You can open their details. Okay. Pretty straightforward. I like it. Go in here. Oh, that's a nice interaction. So they're showing you here a keyboard shortcut that is only present when this input is not focused. Then they have 3 small buttons that are only visible when the input is focused. So adding the due date, adding a label, assigning the task. Very nice. Here they come in when you focus the title, unless there's a value. Okay, interesting. That might be a bit, that's like a very fine-grained detail, but I'd like to be able to implement that. Well, these are my initial thoughts as I play around the kind of stuff that I see and notice that seems interesting. In general, I like the UX. They have this whole, okay, you can drag and drop. That's advanced if we get around to it maybe, but that doesn't immediately strike me as a must-have. I did a little bit of exploration earlier, and one of the details that both intrigued and frustrated me was that what do we have here? A class plane, a text editing host. I can't get this to open. Well, you can see it there for a second. It looks like this Flutter library, which I've heard of but never really researched or used, paints a canvas element. So there is no DOM here for us to inspect. Inspect source is useless to us. So all we have to go off of is the UI and the UX. And that's going to be an interesting and fun challenge. I took the afternoon to start trying to scaffold the HTML and the tailwind to just sort of take this inbox view without any of the navigational interactions, which is primarily here, like this interaction, all of these links that take you to new pages. Not wire any of that up. So just, a single page, no JavaScript, no real links, but try to get some of this quote unquote client side state, these kinds of things, popovers, collapsibles, forms, get them implemented. And I am pretty happy with where I ended up after a few hours. So let's jump over and look at that. A few things. You will immediately notice that they use a sort of purple hue in their dark theme. Tailwind does not have a color that quite looks like this. So I just went with the slate color palette from Tailwind. But we've got our fixed sidebar. We have our inset rounded cards, our primary card, our secondary card. We have that hover effect. We've got collapsibles. We've got popovers. We've got this little interaction. We've got some z-index issue there. That'll be a quick fix. The image here. So we have a starting place. So what is next? As I said, my goals here are to use this as an opportunity to explore for myself and provide as a resource to the Rails community how we can build a web application that feels nice in the ways that this feels nice, right? I mean, this is a well-funded company that has been building an application for literally years, Now, of course, they've been building native applications and web and mobile applications, and their use of Flutter is no doubt a part of that. But nonetheless, right? I mean, this is a modern, quote unquote, fancy web application, and I am confident that we can emulate 80%, if not more, of the interactive experience of this application using standard Rails tooling, HTML, CSS, but taking advantage of the modern enhancements that have been made there, whether that's view transitions added to browsers, whether that's Turbo's new morphing functionality. I think we can tie these pieces together and build an application that has the verve of Superlist, but without all of the front end shenanigans. So up next, I want to scaffold a Rails application. Of course, that Rails application will be using SQLite for the database. I'm planning to deploy it, and we'll make it publicly available, and the source code will be on GitHub and open, obviously, and we can just make our way through. We've got the shell here. That's nice. So it's mostly going to be making things real, making these links real, making these buttons and these actions and these forms really working. And as we go, learning how can we take advantage of morphing? How can we take advantage of view transitions? How can we get some of this interactivity, popovers, collapsibles, without writing JavaScript? These are both of these right now. These are just details elements. This is a sort of quote unquote standard details element. This is a details element where the collapsible body is absolutely positioned to create these popover menus. That's something we can fix too. Selecting all of the text there if you double click too quickly. But that's the plan. That's the goal. That's the reasoning. If you are interested and you want to follow along, I will post on Twitter my plans for when I'm going to be live streaming. I will record those live streams and post them to YouTube so people can come along and watch them after the fact. And let's see how far we can get in a short amount of time. I leave for vacation in 2 weeks, so I have a natural deadline. Let's try to build this thing in 2 weeks. I hope that you will join me, and I hope that we all learn a lot along the way. But until the next one, I will talk to you later.